let's play a duet together, and I will count us off to begin. 1, 2, ready, play. Hi, my name's Rebecca, and welcome to my piano studio. I'm so glad that you're here, and today we are going to make beautiful music together. One of the things that I love to do in this studio and on this channel is to teach people how to sit down at the piano, even if you've never touched the piano keys before, and make beautiful music. Improvisation is something that I never officially learned how to do, even with all of my years of playing the piano and heading into college studying vocal performance. I didn't really learn how to continue my piano education by making beautiful music when I sat down. I could read music really well, which is an important and awesome skill to have, but when I wanted to just sit down and play for fun, if I didn't have anything memorized, I couldn't do that. So today you have the opportunity to learn an absolutely beautiful chord progression in the key of G major. G major is a great one for beginners to start with because there's only one black note that you have to remember. As soon as you learn what G major looks like on the piano, you'll be able to play in G major in no time. It's a whole nother key other than the key of C major, which is all the white keys between C and C. So what's going to happen today? I'm going to teach you this awesome and beautiful chord progression that can translate into any of the keys. But I really like this one because it has a mellow and melancholic feel. It almost feels like a songwriter's chord progression. And I'm sure that you will recognize the way that it sounds when you hear it. So I'm going to teach you how to play this chord progression. If you just want to use one hand, you can do that, but we're going to venture into using two hands at the same time. But then at the end, I'm going to just be quiet and play so that you can play a duet with me. So my hope is that you will take notes and you will be prepared. You'll practice up so that when it comes time for me to stop talking and just to play, you'll be able to make music with me. So I hope that you'll join me as we learn this new chord progression. I would love to know in the comments below how long you've been playing the piano. Is this your first time, or have you been playing for a long time and this is just expanding your repertoire? Let me know in the comments down below. Also, I want to thank you so much for those of you who have supported me, whether that is through commenting or sharing or subscribing to my channel. If this is something that interests you in learning to play music every time you sit down at the piano, I hope you do consider subscribing. Hit the bell notification so that you know every time I upload a new video. And for those of you who've bought me coffee, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Never feel that you have to do that, but if you do choose to buy me a cup of coffee, I cannot be more grateful. So first things first, let's talk about the key of G major. So as we know, the key of C major goes between C and C and has no black notes. But this is our first stop in the circle of fifths. And if you'd like to look at a circle of fifths to follow along and kind of understand where the keys are coming from, make sure that you check the description box below, and I have a freebie for you that you can sign up and get. So for the key of G major, it is 5 steps up from C. And that means that we are going to start on a G. I'll start here at this one. And there's only going to be one sharp. So the sharp is one note that is directly to the right of whatever note that we said. So the only note that we're going to have a sharp on is an F. So instead of playing an F, the note directly to the right of it is this black one, and that is F sharp. So when we're playing the G major scale, we're going to start on G, play all the notes up until we get to the F, skip the white F, play the F sharp, and then the G, and go back down. So we're always going to start with a scale whenever we start improvising. It teaches our ears and it teaches our hands which notes to play. Now, when you play the scale, you do not have to use the proper scale fingering, but you can if you want to. So for now, I'm just going to use one finger. So let's play the G major scale. Skip the F, play F sharp, and then come back down. Now that we know what the key of G is between G and G, we're going to build some chords on each of the notes of the G scale. Now for the first one, I'm going to show you how the chord is formed, but that's just to give you an idea of where these are coming from, and I'm not going to do that for every single one. So we're going to be building triads, which is a set of 3 notes that are stacked on top of each other. So we're going to start with G and count up 3 notes. 1, 2, 3. That leads us to a B. So we have G and B. And then we're going to count up 5 from G. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's a D. So if you put all 3 of those together, it is G, B, and D. That's the number 1 chord because it's built on the first note of the G scale. If we go to the 2 and we build a triad on top of that, that is an A minor. I'm going to go through all of these because they're always good to practice for every single key that you are in. For the 3rd note on B, we build a triad as well. This time we have B and D, but remember we're not playing the F, we're playing the F sharp. This is a B minor. The 4th is built on a C, C, E, and G, and that's a C major. The 5 is a D with our F sharp in the middle. D, F sharp, A is a D major. Then we have our 6 built on the E, E minor, E, G, and B. Our 7 we don't use a lot right now, but it is a diminished chord, and that is built on the F sharp. So it's F sharp, A, and C. Hear how that sounds? That's our 7th chord, and then we're back to 1. So what you can do is with both hands, you can go through and just play all of those different chords just to get used to what they feel like in your hand. And that's a good warm-up to any improvisation. So now that we know what the chords are, I'm going to give you the order that we're going to do them in. So we're going to start with, and I'll do this with my left hand because this is what we're doing. We're doing left-handed chords this time. And we're going to start with a 1 chord. Just always remember we begin and end with our 1 chord because that makes it feel like our progression has come home. If you ended on something other than 1, which does happen sometimes, but it does become a little bit less likely to hear that your piece has come home. So for the purpose of our improvisation today, we are going to always begin and end on a 1 chord. So we have a G major chord, G, B, and D. Then we're going to go to our 3 chord, which is minor. So let's count up 3. 1, 2, 3. That was our B minor. Remember, we have B, D, and F sharp. Then we're going to go to our 6 chord. So from G, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we build a chord on top of that E. That's our E minor. We have 2 more chords. Then we're going to our 4 chord. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a C major. And then we close the loop to G. Reminder that any chord progressions that you have loop, and they can loop infinite times if you want to. If you just want a very short song, you can go through the loop 1 time or 2 times. But if you just want to play for hours and hours, you have the ability to do that, just completing the loop and then going around again and going around again. So let's do all of these in order now so that we've got them. All right, so we have our 1 chord, 3 chord, 6 chord, 4 chord, and complete the loop with our 1 chord. So what I want you to do right now is just go through all of those 4 chords as many times as you need to. If you need to write it down so that you have it in front of you, then you know that you're always going from 1 to 3 to 6 to 4 to 1 and then loop it. So I want you to just try those in the root position. So I like to call root position chords stacked chords, which is the stack like this. For my younger students, I call these snowman chords because we have the bottom, the middle of the snowman, and the top of the snowman. They are the stacked chords. So we're going to do stacked chords first before we do our next step, which is representative chords. We now have our chord progression and we have all of our stacked chords, but now we're going to do something that's actually a little bit easier. And I like to do this second because we now understand what those chords were to begin with. So I'm going to actually come down here to this octave because this is where we're going to be playing it the most. But we're going to now make an octave. An octave is from one note to another. So if you're doing a G octave, we're doing G with your pinky or your 5 finger, and the G right above that with your one finger or your thumb. And one thing that I want you to make sure of is that you're not hitting other notes in the process. So it can be a little bit difficult for a beginner if you have never played an octave to hit this cleanly without hitting, especially with your thumb, the note there. So if you're really finding yourself, especially with your thumb, hitting that F and the G together, obviously we don't want the F in there. What I want you to do is actually on purpose play F and G with your thumb and then put your pinky on the other G. And then you're going to move your thumb so that you release that F. And what happens is this knuckle on your thumb just bends slightly. So you're not moving your entire wrist this way. That would be very painful to play an octave this way. We always want our wrist to be straight towards us, coming out from our body in a 90-degree angle. And the movement is going to be this way with our wrist. So it's going back and forth this way, not turning your entire hand. Okay? So just play around with that so that you can get a clean octave. That might be enough for you, and that's okay. But if you can handle something else in the middle, we're going to use our 2-finger and put it down on the 5th. So if you remember from the beginning when we made our original chord, we made a 3rd from the bottom. That was the B. And then we did a 5th from the bottom, which is the D. So the entire chord would be G, B, D with a G on top. You can feel free to absolutely do that, but especially as a beginner, doing a 4-note chord is rather difficult. So to make that just a little bit easier, we're going to drop the 3rd in the middle, and we have G, D, and then G. Okay? So you can play them like this all together, or you can arpeggiate them where you start at the bottom, you go to the top, and play any of the notes in order, actually in whatever order that you want to. That is called arpeggiation. So that is your first chord. Then we're going to go to a B. So let's go to this B, the one that's right just 2 notes up, because this is our 3rd. Okay, so we have a B with an F sharp in the middle. Okay. And you can do the same thing where you can play them in any order. And then we're going to go to an E. So you can either go down to this one or go up, whichever one feels more comfortable to you. So E with a B in the middle. And then we have a C chord with a G in the middle, and then we're back to our 1. That's one way to do it. But the other way that I'm going to suggest is a combination of the two. And the reason I'm suggesting this is because our 2 minor chords, our B minor and our E minor, they need the 3rd in there in order to sound minor. If you just have the 5th, we don't know if that middle note is a G or a G sharp, which is a major chord. Even though this doesn't actually fit in the key of G major, having the G sharp in there, we still don't really know. It's kind of a guess to your ear whether you are doing a G natural or a G sharp. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do a representative chord for the 1st chord and the 4th chord, the G and the C, because they are major chords. Okay, so we have G, D, G for the first one. And then for the B minor, I'm going to go to a stacked B minor. So it's B, D, F sharp. That's our stack. Then I'm going to go to an E minor stacked, and then a representative C chord. All right, so look at that again. So we have representative G, stacked B minor, stacked E minor, representative C, and then back to our representative G. So you can do either one of those 2 things where you represent all of the chords or you do a combination of the both. Okay, so that is completely up to you, and that's what I love about improvisation, that we get to make decisions. Be confident in your decisions. Just because I choose to do it one way does not mean that you need to do it exactly like that. You get to, as a musician, in your own right, you get to make your own decisions. particularly if this is your first time improvising at all, you might want to just stick with one hand at a time, and that's perfectly understandable. So let's talk about a melody in your right hand. Regardless, this is not a step to skip because we are going to eventually put both hands together, and we need to have a good melody in the right hand side. So the only rules, we have two main rules for a melody. Number one is that we're going to begin and end on a G. It doesn't have to be the same G. It can be, you can start here and end here if you want to. You can start here and end here, wherever you would like, as long as you're ending on that G. Remember, that makes it sound like we have come home with our melody. So that's the first rule. The second rule is that even though I'm going to give you use of whatever octaves you want, so you can go between this G and this G, and then this G and this G. This is middle C right here. Either one of those two octaves. However, you cannot be going like this, where you are just popping around, because it doesn't sound very good to the ear. That doesn't sound like a real song, does it? When you hear something that's going up and down, it really doesn't sound like a real song that we can sing. And so when you listen to music with lyrics or without lyrics, you're hearing music that stays kind of within a hand's breadth of one another. So within those 5 notes, it doesn't have to only stay here. But if you move up, then you do the next ones between this hand. So let me give you an example of something that sounds a little bit better. That sounded like a real song, didn't it? And it was just because I was making use of steps and skips and things that are kind of right within your hand's breadth. So I want you to practice making a melody. Don't always just stick with quarter notes. So quarter notes are where you're doing one beat like this. So this would be a quarter note melody. So yes, I did kind of keep my melody within the hand's breadth. However, it was kind of boring because it's all the same. So we don't want everything to be the same. We want to vary our rhythm. It does not mean that you have to be going really fast or making trills or anything where your hand is doing aerobics on the keys. It doesn't have to be crazy. It just has to be kind of varied. So here's a better example. So it's not always the same. Sometimes you're doing fast notes, sometimes you're doing slow notes. Regardless, it is going to sound great. All right, so give it a try. Don't be afraid of trying something new. And if you don't like it, then do it again. So that is the melody in the right hand side. You might want to just stop here and then skip ahead to where I am playing the chord progression so you can play along with me if you just want to practice melody. But if you want to continue with both hands, here's your next step. Let's talk a little bit about melody in your right hand. So for this improvisation, we're going to be playing with our right hand as the melody and the left hand as chords. So immediately, we're going to actually put both hands together. So don't be intimidated if you've never played with 2 hands before, because this is going to be the easy part. So you're going to alternate between doing left hand and then right hand. So what our right hand pattern to begin with is going to be is just in a 5-finger pattern. So we're going to do G, A, B, C, and D. And you're not going to move. They're going to stay right here. Your left hand representative chords, I'm going to do all of them as representative chords right now. And we're going to do 1 beat with the chord and then 3 beats with the right hand notes. And they can be any of those 5 notes. Okay, and then we'll move to the next one, to our B minor. And then go to our E minor, to our C, and then end together on G. So we're just alternating between the left hand and the right hand. And you get to choose any notes as you're going. The next step is putting both hands together. So this time, instead of alternating where we're doing one chord and then something over here with your right hand, we're going to be doing them all at the same time. Go slowly at first until you really can get the movements of your hand moving from the different chords especially. And if you need to just stay within 5 notes to start, go ahead and do that. But this time I'm only going to do one note at a time, but I'm going to stay within probably an octave, maybe 2. And let's come up with a small melody, including the left hand as well. So you'll also notice in my left hand, sometimes I will play these together. Sometimes I will play them from bottom to top. It's just kind of whatever I'm feeling at the moment. All right, let's give this a try. Sounded beautiful already. So give that a try. I'm going to give you one more step for your right hand to fill it out just a little bit more. I'm not going to get into inversions and doing chords in the right hand yet. That will be for a later video where we can improvise a little bit more with the right hand. This is really just to give you practice, but I am going to give you one additional note that you can add that's going to sound great every single time. One of my favorite notes of every single major scale is called the dominant note, and that is simply the 5th note of the scale. So we're going to start on G and figure out what's number 5. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. D. So D is going to become our magical note. All right, so we have a G as our 1 and our D as our 5. And what that means is that you can play any note within the G scale with a D, and it's going to sound wonderful. Let me show you and prove this to you. So I'll start with G and D, and then A and D, B and D, even C and D. So that one you can tell that that's right next to each other, and that is a little dissonant, where it sounds like it's a little bit clashing. But when you make use of that in your song, you're going to love it. Let's keep going. Then D and E. Same deal, little dissonant there. F sharp and D. And then, of course, our G and D. So this time, the only difference that I'm changing is that I'm going to start adding a D in here as well. Okay? Let's give this a try. We've now come to the portion that you've all been waiting for, where you're going to get to play with me. So the way this is going to work, I'm going to keep my hands down a little bit on the piano, and then you have use of the whole rest of the piano. So I'm going to go through the entire chord progression 2 complete times, from G to G 2 times. But I'm going to stay for 8 beats on each chord. So for example, for the first one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then move to the next one. Okay? So here we go. Let's play a duet together, and I will count us off to begin. 1, 2, ready, play. I hope that you save this video so that you're able to use it in the future and that in everything that you do, you just have fun. That music can be something that is open for everyone. Everyone can make music, whether you've been playing for a very long time and studying with a person, or have been learning from YouTube and this is one of your first times sitting down. I hope that you enjoyed playing that duet with me, that you come back, you can play it again, and every single time you do, it's going to be different, which is so cool. Try recording it as well. When you play something and then record it and play it back, it is really empowering and it's so neat to be able to do that. So I hope that you do record yourself so that you can hear not only your progress, but encourage yourself to be like, yes, I am making music. And that is really awesome because music should be available for everyone. And I hope that you're able to experience that as well. Leave a comment below if there's anything you'd like me to dive deeper into or something you'd like me to teach, and I would love to consider doing that. And until then, I will see you in the next video. Keep practicing.